Okay, look, today has straight up blown chunks, so I need to talk about some positive news after this morning having my main TikTok account get hacked by somebody in Georgia, the country of Georgia, which means probably Russian. And then within 5 minutes, my account got banned because TikTok was like, that's suspicious. Nobody from the country of Georgia should be logging into this account owned by somebody in Portland, Oregon. So now I'm going through the process of trying maybe to get my account restored. And in the interim, all of my income is just completely gone. Lost all my mutuals, lost all my drafts. It's just, it blows chunks. There's no other way to properly describe the way the day has gone for me. And because of that, I need some good news. And I don't know, maybe y'all need some good news too. So let's talk about the elections last night. I was up really late last night. So after the news broke that Eileen Higgins had become Miami's first Democratic mayor in nearly 30 years, I real quick made a video about it. I find this story really, sorry, my tummy's growling. I find this story really fascinating, not only because Eileen successfully flipped this district after almost 3 decades of Republicans holding that position, but also because back in June of this year, the Republican mayor tried to cancel this election. And loads of people were freaking out saying, this is the beginning of Republicans canceling elections all over the country. And very swiftly, by the end of July, a judge had been like, no, you can't do that. These elections will proceed. And lo and behold, what? The MAGA Republican, the Donald Trump endorsed candidate lost and Eileen Higgins won. Part of what makes her win so important is that we are seeing a swing in Hispanic voters back to the Democratic Party. The Republican, Emilio Gonzalez, he ran, again, Trump endorsed. He ran on Donald Trump's agenda of securing our borders and more immigrant crackdown. And Higgins, she talked about immigration. But to quote her, Donald Trump and I have very different points of view on how we should treat our residents, many of whom are immigrants. That's the strength of this community. We are an immigrant-based place. That's our uniqueness. That's what makes us special. Again, super big win for democracy. The voice of the people was heard at the ballot box in Miami, Florida. But it's not just Miami that had a big win yesterday. Georgia did as well. Eric Geisler, a Democrat, flipped a Northeast Georgia House seat from red to blue. Keep in mind, he ran against the Republican who ultimately won in 2024. And at that time, he got less than 40% of the vote. But just a year later, 50.85%. And he flipped the seat from red to blue. But I've got more good news for you from yesterday. So in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Mayor Keller won a 3rd consecutive term. And you may be asking, well, what's special about that? A Democrat held on to their seat. So let me read a little bit here from the Albuquerque Journal. Incumbent Tim Keller scored a historic 3rd consecutive term in Albuquerque's mayoral runoff election on Tuesday after a bruising contest fought over homelessness, crime, and federal immigration enforcement. Keller came away with 58% of the vote, and the MAGA challenger, Darren White, 42% of the vote. So this is now 3 for 3 yesterday. Hard-line MAGA Republican Donald Trump endorsed candidates using Donald Trump's talking points, particularly on immigration. They all got their asses handed to them. They all lost. That brings me to a breakdown that was published today regarding the November 2025 election. In 2025, so far, Democrats have flipped 21% of Republican-held legislative seats. Right, so this report came out, including the election results from last night. So if you look at the general election and you look at all the special elections throughout this year so far, it doesn't look good for Republicans. It does not look good for them at all. Let me just read a little bit here from Bolt's Mag. At the start of Donald Trump's first presidency in 2017, large Democratic victories in New Jersey and Virginia, paired with overperformances in special elections, foreshadowed a blue wave that happened in the 2018 midterms. 8 years later, Trump's return to power has been followed by similar Republican setbacks, including Democrats' sweep of all 13 statewide elections that took place this last November, plus a myriad of gains for local offices. Now, with this year's contest nearly all completed after Tuesday, which saw Democrats stage an upset and flip a House seat in Georgia, the extent to which the GOP struggled in legislative races has also come into view. Democrats, buoyed by Trump's unpopularity and a fired-up base, flipped 21% of all the GOP-held seats that were on the ballot throughout 2025. According to Bolt's analysis, Democrats gained 25 state, Senate, and House seats that were held by the GOP out of the 118 that were resolved this year in regular or special elections. This swings even stronger than in 2017 when Democrats flipped 20% of all the legislative seats up for re-election. So in 2017, 20% of the Republican-held seats flipped blue. This year, 21%. Among their 2025 gains, Democrats have secured their largest majority in the Virginia State House since the 1980s, expanded their control of the New Jersey Assembly, and broken Republican supermajorities in both the Senates of Iowa and Mississippi. They also flipped a Senate seat in a deeply Republican region of Pennsylvania and staged Tuesday's upset in a Georgia district that Trump carried by double digits last year. And here's the rest of that picture. Meanwhile, Republicans failed to flip any legislative seats this year, losing ground even in New Jersey where they had high hopes, and failing to gain several districts in New York State that Trump carried last year. And the GOP may have gotten lucky this year. Most of the legislative elections that occurred in 2025 were for seats that Democrats already held, which limited their opportunity for gains. The down ballot found that in special elections that both parties contested this year, Democrats performed 13 percentage points better on average than they did in the presidential race of 2024. The 25-seat swing from Republicans to Democrats this year represents a shift of 9% out of the 271 elections that have been resolved so far this year. Another echo of the state legislative elections in 2017, which also saw a 9-point shift against the GOP. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will link to the full article because they do a breakdown on some of these different state houses, and it's really worth reading. I have a couple of takeaways here. So number one is that we've got to focus on incremental victories. We have to celebrate every single victory. Every win against fascism, every defeat for the fascist GOP, that is worth celebrating. And then I also want to remind folks that we can get so lost in the weeds. I know a lot of people were upset over Afton's loss in particular. We can get so lost in the weeds that we don't really see what's happening on a bigger scale. We don't get that bigger picture. So it's really good to take time and read analyses like this one where you step back and look and say, actually, whoa, you flipped 21% of the seats. This is even bigger than in 2017. The trends are pretty startling, actually. We need to take the time to do that. The other big takeaway is that democracy still works. Yeah, we're functioning under a kleptocracy right now. Yeah, there's tremendous corruption in the Republican Party and in the executive branch, but elections still work. People still go to the ballot box and have their voice heard. I'm sorry, my stomach is growling so hard. My eldest daughter is actually getting ready. I don't know if you could hear the hairdryer blowing. She's actually getting ready to take me out to dinner with her German conversation group. They have their Stammtisch. And even though my German is real bad, she's taking me to cheer me up after having just like an absolute shit day. So I will sit and listen to a lot of other people speak German and pick up about one out of every 20th word or a sentence here and there, but I will get the grammar all wrong. And I hope maybe they have Schweinehaxe on the menu. It's my favorite winter dish. If not, maybe sauerbraten. That's probably number 2 for me. Anyway, forgive the tummy growling. Okay, so the takeaway here is that democracy is still working. Elections still work. People show up and vote in huge numbers, and we still get representation. Everything is not rigged. The Republicans have not rigged the elections. We have to vote. We have to exercise our constitutional rights in order to defend them. You want to retain the right to vote, you got to show up and cast your vote in every election. So please let these election results be an encouragement to you. Remember that your feelings are not facts. Remember when things feel really overwhelming and it feels like we're not getting anything done, we're not doing anything to resist, that your feelings might be lying to you. And definitely the regime is lying to you. Donald Trump endorsed all these guys. They were totally towing his party line on everything, especially immigration, and they lost across the board. Republicans lost real big this year. Now that means they're going to try even harder to cheat, and it's really important that we make sure we defend our free and fair elections. But just because something is looking really hard, just because we have a setback here or there, step back, look at the bigger picture. Continue to organize, continue to move forward, continue to fight for every single victory because every single one matters, in particular in local elections. So much of the resistance against fascism happens on a local level. It happens in your city council races. It happens in your state legislative races. It happens for your local mayor's race. Local politics, state politics really matters. The resistance is not just fought on a national level. We have so much more power locally to shift the narrative and to regain our rights. So don't forget that. Okay, I'm off to Stammtisch. I hope that your day was better than mine, and I hope that this was an encouragement to you.